It's Kelly. I'm just going to pop this link into here, and hopefully that will get you to where I am and you'll find me. So, boy, isn't it chilly in Australia at the moment? All over, I think we're getting very, very chilly. So I'll just wait until everybody comes on, but we've got some really good questions. So that was fantastic to see that people have sent through their questions, and I'll get to answering some of those. And I will apologise if you're hearing lots of noise in the background right now. It's just that because they've lifted some restrictions, people are driving around everywhere, and there's lots of loud motorbikes and cars, and also my neighbour's doing some renovations. So let's see. Hopefully this is working. No one seems to be finding me at the moment. Oh, hang on, we've got somebody. Yay. So I'm not sure what's happening with the tech. A bit twisted. So what I'm going to do is, until everybody finds me, I'm just going to start, and then we can get cracking. Oh, hang on. Now I've got the information that I need here. So we've had some awesome questions. So now what I'll do is I'll start putting these questions up for you. And that way you can see, because I think it's important that you know what people have asked me throughout the time. Hi, Michelle. Glad you found me. Just pop in any questions you have. I'm just going to pop in the question that I got in earlier so that everybody can see it. And that way I'm going to start answering the questions and we can get going. So the first thing that Kylie says is that she's psychologically drawn into wanting and needing to buy and try all these new food products that companies keep dropping into the market, like new chocolates and magnums. And one of the examples that I'm seeing constantly in my face at the moment, for me, this is not from Kylie, from me, is that Netflix ice cream. And they're talking about watch your Netflix and pair it with this ice cream. So, you know, and for her, it's the thoughts behind this is, I just want to find out if it's any good. I want to tick it off, and that way I can get it out of my system so I don't have to keep thinking about it. So obviously the thought just keeps going. And when she actually buys it and tastes it, it's disappointing. Now, I reckon this is actually a really great start to our life. And I love, love, love this. And I want to thank Kylie so much for asking this and wanting to know why this is happening, because this impacts everyone that I know who is an emotional eater, binge eater, or food addict. Now, I'm going to tackle this on two different wavelengths, if you like. And the first one is on the business side of things, that external side of things, and it is called marketing. Food companies are filled with marketers, test labs, and scientists. And they're all working together to make the foods and drinks, because we can't take those out of the mix as well, that they can make the most exciting, pleasurable, loving experience for you wrapped up in a really small parcel, and they scientifically manipulate it to be as highly palatable and connected to your reward system and pleasure system in your brain. So, of course, you want more and more and more. What this is doing is they're actually wanting to trigger your dopamine pathways in your brain for pleasure and reward. And this is done through both marketing and science. So for binge eaters and food addicts, what this actually means is you don't lack willpower, discipline, self-control when it comes to these sorts of foods. They're manipulated scientifically to be so exciting that you can't stop eating them. So I want you to get that. That has been created for you, the external environment. So if you get this and it's been a bit of an aha moment for you, if you understand that, just comment and let me know with either a yes, a thumbs up, or a smiley face, or got it. So I'd love to know. Hi, Michelle. I'm just reading all your stuff. Okay, I'll answer that in a moment. So does this make sense for what I've said so far? I know there's only you on at the moment, Michelle, but hopefully that makes sense. So now what we've got to do is look at the internal part. So now we're looking at you. And this is what I call, I was talking about with the reward system in your brain. So you have a biochemical imbalance, and you're using food as your drug of choice to balance, to get a high, to escape negative feelings and thoughts or even situations. And it's usually a combination of things to get a sense of relaxation. So the biggest thing here is that food is your drug. And I know that that sounds really intense, maybe for you or for other people, but it's the truth. And it's just understanding that. And unlike other drugs, we can't get away from it. So we need to learn and how to understand it, understand what's going on, and then understand how to cope with it being all around us. And because each time you actually see something new, it's actually lighting up that reward pathway in your brain, and it's compelling you to buy, to eat, with the hope that it's actually going to give you what the reward pathway, the pleasure pathway is looking for. But again, alas, what you say is disappointing. And this is typical of that dopamine pathway. So it builds up this excitement, this anticipation of, oh, it's going to be so good, it's going to be so good. And then you eat it and you go, oh, Well, that wasn't so great. And that's how we always know that it's not you. It's not about willpower, discipline, self control. It's that you're being dopamine driven, you're being reward system driven. So it's, if you get that it's not your failure, not your weakness, and then start to pull apart that you need to learn about your biochemistry and how to balance your biochemistry, then that actually changes this entire space. It's a bit more complex than that because there's also emotions and memories connected to it. But you'll continue to be dopamine driven and reward driven because it will always drive you to feed it. And it's driven by the sight, the smell, the memory and of food. And it's like a teenager or a child chucking a tantrum. It will just keep at you until you feed it. And once you feed it, it just goes, oh, thank you. And it goes quiet. But then, of course, you're left with the pieces to pick up. So hopefully that's helped you to understand a bit more about what's going on inside. And if, oh, you're on, Kylie. Hi, you got it. Fantastic. That's what I was hoping for. Now, Michelle. So Michelle said that she's signed up for an online program that helps with food addiction recovery by eliminating foods. Now, already, I don't like this term, abstinence. When you say the word abstinence, I want you to type in what abstinence sort of really means for you. So if you can right now type in, what does abstinence mean? Like, we really think about it. Because abstinence is not a long-term sustainable option. And that's something that's so important to understand. We can abstain from things like alcohol and drugs, but food, very different. Right. But in this world, in reality, I mean, this is highly restrictive. It says salt-free, sugar-free, wheat-free, caffeine-free. To me, that's not living. So what you'll be constantly doing is being afraid of food. Again, it's setting up all these rules around food and not you creating or understanding your own body and own system about what it needs and wants and what are triggers or excitations and what is healthy for you. Again, it's something that's giving you, basically it's another diet. And diet is all about not understanding yourself. Diet means short term because that's what a diet is. It is not long term, it is not sustainable. And the byproduct, of course, is potentially weight loss. But again, it's short-term weight loss. Because if you think about your entire life, not just in the next 12 weeks, 6 months, is it a reality to be able to be salt-free, sugar-free, wheat-free, caffeine-free. Maybe caffeine-free, but the rest. And I'm going to say no. And that's what creates rules around food like that, and a diet creates eating disorders. It makes it worse, and the research clearly shows that. So it actually makes your relationship with food worse. It makes your anxiety around food worse, your food confusion worse. And so then when you're left to your own devices, trying to work out what to eat and what not to, when you're not on this restrictive process, then it's sort of like this free for all. It's this child or this teenager left without a parent being able to support them and guide them. And they don't know what to do to look after themselves. And that's really what's happening here. You know, I think it's great that the program's all about vegetables, fruits, you know, there's legumes, rice, oats, that sort of thing. But again, those things they may put in there, but is it right for your system? So, for instance, I'll give you my example. If I went on that, straight away, I could not do salt free because my body needs salt because I have health problems. So that would be just a no-go zone. Sugar, well, sugar's in basically everything. So if you buy things, sugar's in nearly everything. And I'm not just talking processed foods. I'm just talking, the basic things that you buy. And therefore, what happens when you go abstinent and you have a little bit of sugar in something, it will potentially set you off, or it causes a mindset of, oh my God, I had sugar. Oh my God, I had salt. I've broken everything, and I've destroyed everything that I've worked so hard for. So then it creates this mindset of, well, I've blown it. And then what happens when you've got the I've blown it mentality? I'm a failure. I'm weak. The all or nothing. Binging. So it's setting you up potentially to continue the cycle that you may have been in for years. Coming back to, again, myself, if they prescribed rice and oats for me, I can't eat them. Rice for me is a trigger. It makes me crave. If they told me to eat oats, I have an intolerance to oats. It causes a false starvation. So I couldn't do it. So this is why something that's prescribed for you is not good, and diet's not a sustainable way. It's you actually learning about yourself and creating a plan for yourself. And that's why we scramble for things rather than taking the time to sit down and do the work and work out what is right in our system and hold on to that, because that's the key. It's holding on to that, because that's then you knowing, trusting yourself, trusting your body. And as a result, you won't then have the need for a diet. Or if you start craving, then you'll be able to look at what you know about the foods that nourish your system, or why you're craving, and understand it deeply again and be able to create something that fulfills that craving. So that's really important here, is deeply understanding yourself and your relationship with food, and not constantly being prescribed something because it teaches you nothing and it is not sustainable for life. So I know that was really long-winded. I'm sorry, but I'm on my bandwagon with this one. So, you know, let me know whether, you agree with me or not. I'm okay with you not agreeing with me. Because remember, this is my opinion, and that's what you've asked. And anything like this, take away what you find helpful, but then keep exploring for yourself. So there's always some helpful things. So the helpful things here is the quality of the food, which is the vegetables, the fruits, the legumes, and if rice and oats in your system sits well, then that's great. Take that away and use that as the foundation of how you create your own plan and understand yourself. But please don't, you know, put such rigid rules around yourself, because you won't be able to sustain it, and then it will cause you to feel like a failure, or that you've blown it, or anything like that. Hi, Janet. Thank you for coming and finding us. Yes. And Janet, if you've got any questions, pop it in the chat. Now, Kylie had another question for me, and I'll pop that in the chat. Everyone can see. I'm just going to take a drink. So here, I'm going to tackle this on a couple of different grounds. So she's asked my thoughts on pureed or liquefied foods such as green smoothies or sorbets. Now, everything has its place, and it depends on the why behind it and the nutritional quality and balance. So, for example, if it was in a post weight loss surgery scenario, a puree is actually part of the process of helping you to be able to get nutrients in, and it's part of how your body learns, or stomach learns, to eat again after surgery. So puree in that case, it has its place. Or if you're unwell, great option. Smoothies, again, they've got their place. So, for post weight loss surgery, again, they can be a really good option, as long as they've got all the required nutrients and they're fully balanced. Because it's so easy for smoothies to become imbalanced, because what tends to happen is people put a lot of fruit in them and not much else. So they're really high in carbohydrates, and they don't have balance with their proteins. And that's what we don't want. Now, also, if you're using the shakes or smoothies type things for surgery, like to lose weight before weight loss surgery, it's a necessary part. And also post surgery, if you're not getting enough nutrients, it's a necessary part. If you're medically unwell, it's necessary. But if you're trying to use shakes to lose weight, not a great idea. I disagree with that. There are some people out there who they find breakfast really hard to eat. And so they actually skip breakfast and they don't start eating until later in the day. Now, the research has shown that people who do this are actually more likely to be dieters, they're more likely to be heavier in their weight, and typically they've got some sort of disordered eating. So if you want to start to have create a more sustainable weight and reduce your disordered eating and have a healthier relationship with food, if you find breakfast difficult, then a smoothie again has its place as long as it's balanced. Now, for different situations, for myself, here's mine. Because I need to eat every 2 to 3 hours because I have health conditions. And when I'm in clinic, I can't physically eat because I'm seeing clients. So, it's really not a good look when you're trying to munch down on nuts or something and a piece of fruit and trying to see clients. So I do my smoothie. But my smoothie is completely balanced. And when I say balanced, here's what's in mine: banana, usually berries, avocado, spinach, lots of different spices to give it lots of flavor. And then again, because of my health conditions, I have to have a combination of gelatin powders and a combination of protein powders. And then I add in some almond milk because I can't have milk, and then water. So as you can see, I'm ticking all the boxes for carbohydrates, proteins, good fats, veggies, and then flavor. So that's why it looks a bit funny in color, is because it's got so many different colors in it, and mostly it's green because of the spinach and the avocado. So that's where it's got its place. Sorbet, pure sugar, honey. Don't even touch it. It's just like ice cream. If, for instance, post surgery, if you mushed up some fruit and did a puree fruit, then that's great. Another option, if you're trying to reduce your excitation and cravings and everything, is that you can freeze some fruit and create your own sorbet. And that's actually a really healthier version and a great version of ice cream. And you can put avocado in that. So again, it's got the good fat, and then you can put anything else in it that you like. So one of the ones that I like is I do banana, very similar, really strange, very similar to my shake, but I do avocado, banana, berries, bit of cocoa, and then some dark chocolate, and some, if I feel like it, some nuts to give it a bit of crunch as well. And then I put it all in a blender and make it into like a sorbet or an ice cream, and that is delicious. So there's an option as well. So I hope that helped. Okay, so now I'm going to go back over here. Okay, so I'm now just looking at everything. Yeah, and so going back to Michelle and the sustainability of the program and everything, yeah, and it's true. It's like that's what you've got to take away is, think about what do you want for sustainability for your own healthy eating and relationship with food, Michelle. And what you've taken away from that is the fiber, the fruits, the vegetables, and, you know, water. So, there's all these things. So take away what you need to. That's the importance here. And then start building on that and have your plan up for yourself. Don't leave it in a book. Put up what you want so it's visually there for you. And, it's trial and error. Go through it and go, oh, yeah, that's working at the moment. That's feeling good. And then if you start to notice you're craving a bit here or a bit there, remember, be flexible. Like, if you notice that you're craving carbohydrates on certain days, don't just sort of go, oh, I'm craving. Ask why. Is it that my stress levels are high? Was it that, I didn't sleep well the night before? I haven't had enough water. Was I busier than normal? I didn't move as much. What was it that maybe caused that? Maybe you didn't have enough carbohydrates in the day that you needed. Maybe you didn't eat regularly enough. Be curious about it. That's the important part. Like, I know myself, after certain days, I crave carbohydrates at the end of the day. And that craving for me has two reasons. One is that it could be stress or fatigue. I sort of put them together for me because stress and fatigue in my system are the same. And it says that I need to slow down or I need to rest and deal with my stress throughout the day better and pace myself better on certain days. And other days, it just means that I've burnt more energy than I really had. So my body's saying you need to replenish. And I'm okay with that. So I actually feed it. But I know the carbs that aren't going to trigger me or cause me to binge or do anything like that. I don't binge anymore, but I overeat on certain things. So I have things already prepared. So I have my homemade pizza. So my homemade pizza is one of the things that I see that replenishes me. Other things that I have is I do, and these are my little things. I do mountain bread and I put cheese in the middle and I put that in the microwave and until it's all gooey and eat that. And that really actually gives me that, that's good. I don't have a lot of it. I have a little bit, but that just fulfills that little bit of a extra craving that I had. Or I make hummus and eat more hummus than normally with some pitta because that will fulfill that carbohydrate craving. So it's just finding those things for yourself and knowing what they are and doing it. So I hope that helps for you. Hi, Alistair. Let me just read this. Okay, Alistair, processed carbs. I'm not quite sure. I have some. What do you mean by dumped? Included dumped me. So after my blood sugar test, my endo asked if processed carbs, rice, included dumped me. I have to say no. So I'll wait for you to fill in that for me, Alistair, and then I'll come back to you. Kylie. Yeah, that's the trouble with doing lives and things like that is that there can be a bit of a delay. Yeah, and that's it. We do think that, and we've been told a lot for food addiction that abstinence is the thing, and it's actually not. I don't think it's the right thing. Okay, Alistair, you're not getting me. I don't understand what this means. Okay, Janet. Um, yes, and see, what we've got to find is those things that help us to be successful. And I love this, Janet, because as a mum, it is so hard because a lot of the food preparation, thinking about food, everything for a family, it's all dumped on the mum. And so mums can't escape it. And it needs to be a shared thing. And particularly once children get to a certain age, and even before that, I think it's a really good family practice to be able to sit the family down and say, okay, so what are we all wanting for, you know, dinners, lunches, breakfasts, and do it together. And that way it takes the burden off one person and it shares it across. And it's also a skill for children because it helps them to start thinking about food differently. And it starts with thinking about variety because we all get stuck in this narrow mindedness and we don't want to explore outside of that. So being able to sit everybody down and talk about food and, you know, what vegetables do we want to use this week and all of that sort of stuff is really important to start those conversations at a really young age with your kids and to be able to share this, I don't want to say burden, but a lot of mums see it as a burden. And I love, Janet, that, you know, it was that they were cooking, you know, 1 or 2 nights a week, but now because that sort of wasn't working so well, it's here's a week block and it removes you completely. So instead of you having to do it, you know, still throughout the week, you've pulled right back. So I'm really proud of you. That's brilliant. And this is what can happen when you have adult children living in the home, or children when they get to a certain age, is responsibility. It's teaching them to step up and be able to stand in that space. So very proud. Yeah, fantastic. So yes, mountain bread can be used for many, many different things. Um, right. Okay, Alistair. Now I understand. Okay, so coming back to Alistair's question about certain carbohydrates, what this can be a multi-pronged approach about carbohydrates and, you know, needing them and craving them and them causing more cravings. If you've got diabetes, the potential is that you will crave carbs. So that is one possibility. And so it's not just in a hypo, but it's when you start to have higher blood glucose levels. And then the more carbohydrates you have, your blood glucose increases. And so that becomes an issue. And that's why you need to actually reduce your carbohydrate intake, not to a low, but a moderate carbohydrate intake, and you need to GI load it. So just having carbohydrates on their own is actually not good for your system. You need to balance it out with good fats and also with proteins. And that's why a lot of the research for diabetes is going towards a Mediterranean diet because of how it's all set out. And there's a lot of really good outcomes with the Mediterranean diet because it's got the good fats in it, which diabetics do need in their diets. And it's a moderate carb diet and lots and lots and lots of vegetables, which also means lots of fiber. So this really helps your system and it stops a lot of the cravings. And that's a big part of this. So it's important to make sure that, things like your carbohydrates at this point, if you have, say, if you would normally have, say, a cup of rice with something and only a half a cup of, stir fry with it, do it the opposite way around. So half a cup of rice and a cup of stir fry. And that way you're actually balancing it out and your whole system, particularly your insulin, your blood glucose and your HbA1c is going to love you. That's a definite. And toast, berries and juice all in the morning is just going to cause a hyper because there's no protein. One piece of toast and an egg. There's balance. Do up a scramble with heaps of different veggies in it or an omelette with heaps of different veggies in it and have a little bit of that on top of your toast. That's going to make the difference. So you've got to start balancing and reducing it. And if you're having pure juice, juice is one of the worst things you can have. It's just pure sugar. So if you're having pure juice right now, incrementally start reducing it, adding water into it. So keep cutting it down by 20%, adding in water until you can get rid of the juice completely. So does that make sense for you, Alistair? And it's not just carbs do make you crave, but it's usually carbs plus something else. So we've got triggers or excitation values of different foods, and this is different for everybody. So if you've got to know your trigger foods and you've got to have a list of those and know that if you have this, then it's either going to cause you to go into a binge or crave more or overeat on certain foods immediately or up to 4 hours later. You're going to keep craving and have another hit, so to speak. So you're going to have spikes like this. So what we want to do is completely eliminate those over time by you understanding your foods and your cycles. So does this food cause you to overeat on it or binge on it immediately, or does this food cause a delayed craving, binge, overeat? So start keeping a journal of those things. But start pairing your foods with quality. Okay, guys, we're running out of time here. Fantastic. I'm just reading through everything. Yeah. Similar pocket bread, Janet, is a little bit thicker than pita. Oh, I suppose it depends on the brand you get, but you can use whatever you want. Just remember how thick it is and what you can do with it. When it comes to eating well consistent, what are your thoughts on cheat? Oh, Michelle. Cheat meals and rewarding yourself with food. Okay, I'm not even going to read the rest. I have done a video on cheat meals. I'm going to find it for you and I'll put it into the comments once I find it, because really you're only cheating yourself. It's a mindset. You know, cheat meals really, it's just another word for emotional eat, binge eat. You know, why do it? Why reward yourself with food? If you've got a really good, healthy, balanced diet or eating plan, you have no reason for cheat days. You have no reason to reward yourself with food. That's when you know it's a diet. And straight away, that's alarm bells for me. Don't do it. That means it's restrictive. It's depriving. Sorry, guys. With the temperature change, my nose just drips. So no corona or anything like that. So please don't do it to yourself. Find a healthier, balanced, sustainable way to eat throughout the week so you don't need to feel deprived, restricted, and you don't need cheat days or reward meals or whatever it is. And look, I will say, if I want chocolate every night of the week, I will have chocolate every night of the week. But how much chocolate and the quality of chocolate, that's the difference. So I have a small amount of dark chocolate and I have still some nuts with it. And that way, I've got the protein, I've got the dark chocolate, and everything's balanced. Um, oh, okay. Well, what now that we've talked about even the carbs and the trigger foods and the abstinence and everything else, with the coffee, Michelle, I think I've answered a lot of that. You've just got to think about how to generalize what I've said about the other things into this coffee thing. It's not about you just moving on. You've got to understand that because you're in abstinence, because you've withdrawn, it's now causing a trigger effect. So, yeah, that's an issue for you. That's why abstinence doesn't work. No, that's all right, Janet. It's just that it's about having a list of healthier options, but understanding what's going on and why it might be going on. That's the biggest thing. Why? Yep. Um, okay, so basically, nearly all nuts are good. It's just we have this perception that nuts aren't good for us, or we overeat on them. We get out of control with them. But if we think about if they're not salted. So cashews that are roasted and salted, I will tell you, I will still go after 10 or more years and can't stop eating them. But if I have a raw cashew, whatever. Dry roasted almonds, but not salted, are fine. So anything, and again, we're all different. So anything that is dry roasted is fine, but not salted. Anything that is raw is fine. But try. Everybody's system's different. Try what is right for your system. Thanks, Justin. So before we finish, I just want to have there's so much more that I would love to talk to all of you about. There's so many different things, and look, in the group or in this chat, if there's other topics that you want me to talk about, please do so, because one of the things I want to talk about is what your causes of sabotage are and what your barriers to success are and why that happens. And I would love to know what they are. So whether you want to feel comfortable in putting it in here, so because I think this would be a really good session to have. So let me just, and as I said, if you feel comfortable in typing it in here, sending me an IM, or popping it into the private group, then please let's start this conversation, because I think this would be a fantastic session. Thanks, everyone. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So just before we go, I just want to also have a quick chat about your actual change process, because it's really important for you to create positive change and understand that surrounding yourself with a community that supports you internally and externally actually creates successful change. Because let's be honest, change is not easy. And the reason majority of people cannot change is here. 95% of it is a mind game. It's not to do with food or exercise. It's to do with your mind. And that's what actually causes a sabotage, the success or failure. And that's why I've asked that question, because I want to be able to have this conversation. I want to be able to do a session around this. So the more I know about what causes yours and what you want from me, then let's have a chat about that. And so, we've created an online support group which surrounds you with experts, a community who all deeply understand the issues and actually can support you through the ups and downs. Look, I don't expect any of you to have to go like this. It's going to be like this. I've been through it myself, 34 years of doing this, and then 12 months of finally knowing, breaking free. But that's how long it took me, 12 months. But now I've been in recovery since 2009. So I know how to do this. I know, the challenges that you all face. And I know that you need to learn the new skills, the tools for positive action. And you need to be able to understand yourself and the issues so that you can actually pull yourself out of the status quo, pull yourself out of those cycles that you keep finding yourself in, wanting to change, but then not being able to change because you keep being drawn back to your comfort zones or the status quo or pleasure, depending on what the issue is. And so I'm going to put this offer out to you to help you begin the journey towards living the life you want with the support of professionals, units of information for you to actually work through, tools to help you to create that positive change, and a community of like-minded people to support you. And if you're ready to actually invest in your health, yourself, and to create true change, then I'm here to actually acknowledge, to celebrate with you, and invest in you for taking positive action. So I'm going to offer the first 10 people who are truly invested in committing to their positive change, who sign up to the online community. Here's my investment back to you, is that I'm going to give you 50% off a 50-minute consultation with me. So that's a massive saving. So I'm matching your commitment level. I'm matching your investment. And so instead of $250, you'll just pay 125 Australian. And you get to spend that time with me, talking to me, asking me your questions, and I'm here to coach you through and give you a direction so that you feel like, I've got this, I can do this, and we can map that out together. And then you continue to get my support in the community. Every fortnight, you get to see me, you get to keep asking me questions, you keep getting the units to work through. So I want to be able to give back to you just as much as you're going to invest in yourself. So I hope that you understand that I am here for you, and I want for you to be successful. So I hope you take this up for yourself, because this is massive value for you, and you are valuable. Changing is valuable to you. So I hope you've enjoyed everything, and I do see that everybody's thanked me and appreciated this. And then I will hopefully see those people who are committed to themselves and investing in that change in the group, and then connecting with you individually in that session. And also, please, as I've said, here, is let's start the conversation about barriers and sabotage, so that our next session, when we have a live, is all around what that is, and I can target that straight away, and we can keep the conversation going, and I can create something really juicy for you and really help you to understand what is sabotaging you, because there's so many different things, and get to a bit of the why, and not feel like there's something wrong with you, or again, you lack willpower, discipline, self-control, because that's not the case. You're not a failure. It's that you just have had the wrong tools. You still need to learn, and you basically need to start all over again. You need to wipe the slate clean and start all over again. And I know that sounds a bit scary, but it's the truth. So let's do this together. So thank you so much for attending. Thank you for the wonderful questions. They were really good. And I know that they've helped you, but they'll help everybody else who watches the replay as well. And have a wonderful weekend. Take care, everybody. Bye. Thanks, Michelle. I will look at that. And I appreciate you being the first. So everybody keep adding into that.